All right. Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. We are about to begin, and I want to start off with some big news. And that big news is that if you are here for Secrets to Success, building your smaller business with FIR, you are absolutely in the right place. Yay! First thing of the day done. Now, who am I? This is a great question. Next slide, please. My name is Dana James Edwards, although every time somebody says, who am I? I'm tempted to go with Gossip Girl. It's the first thing that pops into my mind every time. This slide says that I'm supposed to welcome you to today's session, give you an overview of the day, and it also says I'm the head of FIR. Wow, lucky me. But what is FIR? I had better talk about that as well while I'm talking. And that sounds like a few things to do, so I might as well get started with the very first thing, which is welcome. So welcome. It is wonderful to see so many of you here today. I am really excited about today. You might be wondering why this conference and why now? And to answer that, I have a question for you. It's a poll question, our very first one of the day. And the question is, according to the Office for National Statistics, ONS, how many SMEs are there in construction in the UK? You should be seeing a poll up on screen now. You got some options there: 500 to 600K, 6 to 700K, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, over a million. Put your votes in. They're coming in fast and furious. Go for it. Let's keep going. I can see the numbers ticking up. Okay, so most people are saying they think it's over a million. Over a million has the highest number of votes. Closely followed, though very closely followed, by 700,000 to 800,000. Really great. Love that. Now, what's the actual answer? Oh, I'll share the results first so you can see what's going on. Right, so this is where we landed. 28% of you chose over a million, very closely behind 27% at 700,000 to 800,000. I can reveal, drum roll please, that the answer is 870,000 as of the 2004 numbers. Wow. So if you chose 800,000 to 900,000, I think that was about 13% of you or so. Count yourself lucky, award yourself a prize. You now have the adulation of your peers and everyone on the conference for guessing correctly. 870,000 is the answer. And it's a lot. Thought it was over a million. That's absolutely a lot. It is estimated to be over 85% of the industry. No, none of the figures 100% agree with each other, but 85% was the most conservative estimate I saw, so I'm going with that one. And with those kind of numbers, I think it's obvious that we had to create a space to talk just to SMEs, just to you, to smaller businesses. And also, for me as head of FIR, very obvious that we've got to augment our FIR program to make sure we have resources that are tailored to you, that reach you, and that help you. But wait, I just said FIR program. What is the FIR program? Those words are coming up again. I better tell you about it. FIR is the way that we talk about inclusion here at Action Sustainability and the Supply Chain Sustainability School. It stands for fairness, inclusion, and respect. Very simply, do you think work should be fair for everyone? What if something happened to you that changed your circumstances? Would you want that to change the way you were treated? Don't think so. Do you think everyone should have a chance to feel included at work? And do you think everyone should be treated with respect at work? Well, really, with respect everywhere. And I think most people would find it hard to answer no to those questions. But what is the FIR program in essence? Now, the FIR program has grown over time. It now includes over 550 resources. We have toolbox talks, e-learning, checklists, guides, case studies, but we also have events and conferences just like this one as well. And speaking of events and conferences, that is a perfect segue because now I can tell you what you can expect from today's conference in terms of an agenda. So today we have the amazing Carol Lewis Han with us. Carol is managing director at DDC, Define, Dedicate, Cultivate, which is a woman-owned and led small business with less than 50 employees, who is also, wait for it, a national highways supplier. I cannot wait for you to hear her speak. When we were prepping for this conference, I was listening to her just in the pre-call and I was riveted. So I know that's going to be great and really exciting. Then we have a bit of a break before the rock star that is Serena Mitchell takes the floor. Serena lives and breathes SMEs. Her whole job at Network Rail, where she's in commercial and procurement work, revolves around SMEs. She's here to tell us all about meeting FIR and procurement requirements and how we can get better at them. And wait, because I forgot this bit, and this is one of the best bits. You get to ask them both questions. There's Q&A. And I hope that when it's your chance to ask all the questions, you ask really good questions, like who was their childhood crush? Because those are the things we really need to know and get to grips with as we do this session today. And then we're going to go on to something different. I get to show you no, I'm not telling you what I'm going to show you. No spoilers. You're going to have to wait and see. I get to show you a thing, and then I get to tell you some more things that you can do to make your business really stand out and help you meet those FIR or social value requirements and procurement processes. And while I know today is all about you, there will be 5 minutes that's a little bit about me at the very end. Now, I didn't tell you this earlier, but I'm actually very new in my role as head of FIR. I started only in January. So there's no way that I was going to let this session end with so many of you here without asking you what you'd like to see more of or what you'd like next from the FIR program. Please do not leave without telling me this information. And hey, this is a free conference, but you should know nothing in life is free. That little bit is the bit where you pay me with your information and your insights. I'm excited about that. That's the plan for today. Now, one last thing before I hand over. Throughout this session, there are going to be polls and mentees. Now, I already tested a poll with you earlier. You didn't even know it was a test. I was so slick about it. And now I'm going to test the mentee, but also make sure that we're all warmed up at the same time. And the question for the mentee is, what's one thing that your business has already done to create a more inclusive workplace? What's one thing your business has already done to create a more inclusive workplace? It's free text. You can enter up to 3 things. Scan the QR code or menti.com, and there's a code up on screen. Tell us your answers. I would love to hear your thoughts. Oh, FIR ambassadors is a really great one attending this workshop up on the board. I'm going to whip my phone out as well, just to make sure everything's going smoothly and things work. Oh, you have a DEI team. You're doing EDI training. That's wonderful. Oh, mental health first aiders. Love that. Your policies. Oh, unbiased recruitment. Love that. Cultural lunches. Doing diverse employment, diversity training. Oh, I'm going to give a gold star and a hug to the person who wrote using FIR. Love that. Stand down days, mental health training, surveying your team, doing FIR training, surveying the workforce. This graphic is moving faster than my eyes can react to the information. Policies, oh, sanitary products and loos. That's a really endorsing FIR. Online accessibility, really amazing. I love this. This is great. So I think The message for today is we are all on a journey of inclusion in our own businesses. How can we get even better at it, even stronger at it? Today should hopefully help. And I'll stop talking now and hand over to Syra, who's going to do the next session. You can keep them coming. Somebody has a group WhatsApp. That sounds really exciting. Ah, that is amazing. Thank you, everyone. And we will share out these answers when we're sharing the slides at the end of the session. Have a brilliant conference, and I will see you again later.
Hi everyone, I'm Syra and I'm just going to be starting off the session with Carol. So I'm just going to wait until she turns on her camera. Perfect. Dana's already done a bit of an introduction for Carol, but Carol, could you maybe introduce yourself too, please?
Right. Okay. Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody. My name is Carol Han. I'm the Managing Director of DDC Engineering Solutions. So, a little bit about myself. I came to the UK from China in 2004. I initially came over for university, studied construction engineering. After I finished my master's in 2008, I joined DDC, and that's my first job. So since then, I've been here for 17, 18 years now. I've never looked back.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and so just to start us off, I just wanted to do an audience questions for those of you from smaller businesses, what do you think are the biggest challenges or barriers to embedding a fully inclusive culture in your small team? So that's also just another Mendy, and that's just to start us off and thinking about what me and Cara are going to talk about in a bit more detail. So you can just scan the code or type in the Menti code to answer this one. So we've got time constraints, buy-in. Someone said managers, limited resources, time, awareness, finances, cost of accreditation, money, clients, budget, making it important. And I think these are some of the things that we'll probably get into and how you've dealt with these sort of things that people were talking about too. So we're just gonna leave that going just for a little longer. So we see support, profit sharing, awareness, educating, making it important, limited understanding. This is all great. So yeah, so we're just going to move on. And also, so we'll have a Q&A going throughout this session. And towards the end, once I'm done with all my questions, you'll have your opportunity to have your questions answered by Carol. If you could just drop them into the Q&A, that'd be great. So I'm just going to stop the slides for now. It'll just be me and you, Carol. But
Okay.
yeah, you've introduced yourself. Could you also tell us a little bit about more about DDC?
Yeah, I think Dana did a fantastic job about introducing DDC. So I'll just put a little bit more on top. So basically, DDC is a women-led, women-owned, a very much of a value-driven SME. We specialize ourselves in managing highways infrastructure projects, especially in drain surveys and asset inspections and asset management. So what I'll say is our work plays a really important part. It's actually a critical part to ensure that the road safety and performance in the UK's road networks works fine, and especially for the national highways. So in regards to what DDC stand for, to us is very, very clear. So what we stand for is we drive high quality works. We do the right thing, even if it's not the easiest option. We care deeply about people who work with us, and also our UK, or basically international road users who use our road network. So the words like inclusion, respect, flexibility, to us, they are not just buzzwords. They are actually embedded into our every part of the business, included in like how we hire, how we manage our teams, how we deliver our project. It's part of our culture. It's very, very much embedded in, and we're very proud that it has shaped our success. And as well as that, we make, well, basically how when people work with us, how they feel about it.
Yeah, that's great. And you began your journey with DDC in 2008 as a senior project engineer. Is that right? Um, I'm really interested to learn how like that career progression happened for you in the small business and woman led, and how your experiences have shaped you as a managing director now today.
Right. Actually, I started in DDC as a trainee change engineer back
Wow.
in 2008, after I finished university. Because basically at that time, I had absolutely no experience in highways. But what I had though was I was very ambitious. I had a desire to learn. I have a thirst for knowledge, and that has never changed. I'm still like that now. So I'll say the most luckiest thing and the most important thing that what's happened to me, that I was very fortunate to have the most amazing mentor, Lisa, who's a company's owner and one of the co-founder. So what she did was she took me under her wings, taught me absolutely everything from technical knowledge to understanding asset management, understanding the business system, and also the importance of data. She's a very big data driven person. So, of course, obviously, that's technical, but more than that, she also showed me what the people focused leadership look like. And that's what she does. So, basically, is to be supportive, to be direct, to invest in others. She even helped me to settle my life in the UK and embed it into the British culture, because of where came from, my background. So basically, this experience is absolutely the foundation of my leadership style. So I believe in giving people space to grow. I focus on looking at people's potential, their mindset, and their attitude, not just their CV. So basically, what I'm aiming for, and I believe I've been doing it, is I want to create a workspace where people feel being seen, feel being valued, and being trusted. Because when that happens, people do absolutely brilliant things. So for my progression, it wasn't just a career path, really. It was a learning journey in how to lead with purpose and integrity.
It's amazing, yeah. And I know we have talked before a bit about how the FIR program maybe has helped you out with that and sort of helped to support you with that thinking and approach as a leader. Could you maybe talk a bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, I just have to say that I have absolutely no hesitation of encouraging people to sign up to it, and I'll give my reasons for that. So basically, the FIR program and the supply chain sustainability skill has been an absolutely brilliant tool that we could have ever found. So basically, they've helped our management team to formalize and expand the values that we've already living: fairness, the inclusion, and the respect. Basically, the course and the resource give us a structure and the language for what we're already doing. So, for instance, we already knew that we want to be people first and people orientated, but FIR has really helped us to reflect more deeper on how we can embed that into our overall process, like how we can embed that into our recruitment, into our onboarding with contractors and partners, and also training and project and scheme deliveries. So basically, it also pushes us to improve as well. So it's not just a tick the box, it's about understanding where we can go further. So where we need to improve our presentations and how we can support the team better with actions. Many of our team members has already signed up with the school. In fact, all the management team has. And I would really encourage every business, especially SMEs. Obviously, early on with this survey, SMEs has that many, questions, issues, or whatever. Like with embedding to that, I'll say the supply school and FIR programs really help with that. So please do the same for it. Basically, the content, what we find is practical, is insightful, and is very immediately useful. So I'll say it's one of the best tool out there. to support inclusive leadership and sustainable growth. So very well done, guys, for putting this program together.
Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, thank you for that very kind words. And also I just wanted to talk about how Dana mentioned it, and you also talked about it a little bit at the start. But many small businesses see contracts with national highways as maybe being out of reach, but obviously DDC have done that. And how do you think maybe you demonstrating your values and your capabilities in your bids has enabled you to be able to do that? And what would you ask, maybe the advice you would give to SMEs who may be aiming for similar contracts that you've gotten?
Right, okay. Uh, right, so basically, I completely understand why the SMEs feel this way, because we are ourselves, we are SME, so we face the same, basically the real questions, real issues that everybody else face. So especially when you look at the scale of national highways, I think, Jesus Christ, like we're too small to compete, especially against those massive multi-discipline contractors out there. So what I will do, basically, I'll say like with that, don't put yourself down on that. So perhaps I can start with sharing my experience with working with national highways. So basically, I'll put people's mind at ease a bit with that. So from day one, I'll say National Highways has been absolutely incredibly supportive. The project managers, the support team, the procurement, accounting, everyone we work with has been making the journey so smooth, and they are really, really collaborative. They're more collaborative than we ever expected. To me, on my experience, it's a real partnership, and they really, really help us. So basically, in regards to our bid, what we did is we made sure that our bid was more than just a tick list. So we showcase who we are as a business, how we invest in our people, how we embed in inclusion and well-being, and how our flexibility, our multi-skilled team can bring the real value to national highways. What we've also done is during the process of like after we win in the project, we win in the contract, the framework, we also stayed dynamic and adaptable. So as the project requirements evolves, we responded very quickly with agility, with very clear communication. And all that made a really, really big difference. So my advice to small and medium business, to SMEs, what I'll say is bring your basically believe in yourself, believe in your strengths, believe in your team, be very clear on your value, and showcase how you actually live in them, not just a tick box, it's how you actually live them. And also build trust by being transparent and being responsive. In final words, the size of your business doesn't matter as much as your alignment, your integrity, and your ability to deliver.
That's such a great thing to say, and I think it's so true. And I think it definitely does show that if you can do it, anyone can really do it. And I think you're right, size doesn't matter. And I think in previous conversations that we've had, you also did mention the expectations that you have for your supply chain and how they're supposed to reflect DDC's values and how you maybe work with them with different subcontractors to make sure that you're sort of aligned together. Could you go into a bit more detail maybe about that?
Absolutely, that's actually my favorite question. It's our supply chain. So basically, obviously, in the industry, subcontractor is a word that's been widely used. But basically, at DDC, we don't just see subcontractors; we see partners. They are all our partners. So basically, these are the people that we work with day in, day out to deliver critical service for our clients. They are part of our extended team. That's why they are partners. Before any project starts, we sit down with them. We talk openly about expectations. That will include any quality and safety, but we'll also discuss the values like inclusion, like mutual respect, also the shared responsibility. We encourage open dialogues. Our partners feel comfortable to come to us with ideas, with concerns and challenges, and we listen. Basically, that collaboration helps us deliver better outcomes together. In terms of inclusion, we lead by example. We treat everyone equally, regardless of their role and background. We try to ensure that they understand, or we keep on telling them, or we treat them equally for them to understand that they are equally as important as in the project as everybody else, including ourselves. So basically, we share our resources as well with people. We invite people into training course. We give them access to our knowledge, especially on things like safety, health, well-being, and culture. So basically, when you create a respectful and inclusive environment, my experience is that people bring their best selves to the work, and that benefit everyone, including the client and the road users. So it's basically a very nice and calm environment, although work can be hectic, but the environment is not.
I love that. I love that ending. Work can be hectic, but the environment cannot. And then also, again, in our previous conversations, we talked about DDC's flexible working approach, how it's not just for parents and carers, but it's for everyone. And I'd really like to discuss more, like, how do you manage that flexibility while still meeting project and delivery expectations? And what effect has that had on the culture at DDC?
Right, okay. I got that question has been put over to me many times by different people in different occasions. So I feel I'm really privileged to answer this question in this occasion. So basically, to start with, the flexibility isn't something we've added on. It has always been part of the DDC culture since I joined DDC in early 2008. But obviously, back then, it came from empathy and a common sense point of view. But today, it's absolutely a core part of our strategy in business. Basically, where do I start? We recognize modern life can be very complicated. People has families, has health issues. Also, some people might have a long commute. So basically, like even some people did, all they need is just a quiet time so that they can focus. So basically, what we've done is we don't rigidly enforce a 9 to 5 pattern for everybody, but instead we focus on output, quality, and communication. So how do we do that? Basically, in our business, the flexibility isn't the same as just do what you want. That's not flexibility. What we actually do is it requires a lot of planning, accountability, and the trust between the team members. So to DDC is a team. Obviously, different people play different roles in the business, but we are all one team. Everybody in that team understand that their work impact on others. So we coordinate very carefully about that. It's always a team commitment. It's not just a personal perk. So what we've seen from embedding that is absolutely incredible. So what we see is our team members, our people, go the extra mile because they feel they're seen, they feel that they are respected, they have each other's back. We've built a culture where people are not just working, they're thriving as a team. And that makes a huge difference to the performance every single day. So what I have to say is I couldn't be more proud about my team. They're absolutely fantastic bunch.
That's so wonderful. And I love what you said about people aren't just working, they're thriving. And it really sounds like DDC have created that culture where that's able to happen, which I think is so important. And like you said, it really does elevate what you're doing and make it work so much better, I think. But yeah, and then we're just going into the final questions. And this is just about so as a smaller business, and giving advice to maybe other small businesses who are just starting out on the inclusion journey? What is something really simple and practical that you think they could be doing straight away to start embedding fairness, inclusion, and respect into their business?
Right, okay. If if I'm to share one thing with everyone that is really important, is to start by listening. Is is very practical. Listening. What I mean listening is not just I lend your ear, you hear me. It's not that. It's by truly listen. Ask your team how they're doing. See what would make them feel be a bit more supportive. What gets in the way of their best work. What small changes that we could make that can help. So basically, you don't need a full strategy or a dedicated HR team to do that. Inclusion start with the honest conversations and consistent actions. It's about creating an environment where people feel valued and safe. Then obviously from there, you can build it up gradually. Do things like introducing training, by share good practice, and also be open about your journey and honest about it. So even if sometimes you don't have all the answers, it doesn't really matter. So keep it simple, be human. Just remember every business, no matter the size, has the power to make people feel like they belong.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. And so just going into the Q&A, I'm just gonna start answering these questions. So the first question is, when your business is small, it's hard to find growth opportunities for employees. At DDC, how do you find these opportunities?
Growth opportunities. Right, okay. How did we find those growth opportunities for people? Basically, we assess everybody. What we do is, this is a path that I've taken myself with Lisa. So again, this is something that I've embedded into the whole business as well. We look at the individuals. We help them to discover their best selves. Because sometimes you probably don't even know you're talented in one certain aspect because everybody's different. So basically, we give people opportunities. We give people room and space, and then we give people opportunities, and we help to guide them. Basically, once we spotted people's talent in a certain area and that their interests as well, we speak with them and say, actually, I think I have many conversations with my management team and also the people as well within the business. Like, I believe this is good for you. This is a good, because I can see the talent in you. You have the attribute for it. You can perhaps grow from there. Do you like to go on there? Do you like to go on that particular path? And sometimes, obviously, people tell me that I'm not interested, which is absolutely fine. And sometimes people tell me that, yeah, actually, I really want that. I really like appreciate this opportunity. And then, obviously, from there, give people guidance, tell them where they can be, where they can grow, and also basically just set like almost like set up a path for people that mutually agreed with each other.
Great, yeah. And then we also have from Jasmine. She's asked in the chat, so it's inspiring to hear you talk about how you've embedded FIR throughout your organisation. And she'd like to know if you're able to share what projects you've worked on with National Highways, and then how did you showcase your inclusivity during the tender?
Right. How did I share? Basically, um, well, from a tender point of view, there was quite a lot of questions in there, really. I believe that we submitted our CVs to National Highways of the key people that work for the business. How did we demonstrate the inclusivity for that? Just need to scratch my head for that a bit. um, so right, so basically, what did we do? We actually, I think that's probably a question that let me have a think about that. I'll get back to you. If that's all
Okay.
right.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. We have this other question. So it's about who's responsible for diversity, inclusion at DDC. So do you have dedicated people or resources for that, or is it everyone's responsibility?
I'll say it's a culture. It's everybody's responsibility, especially myself and the management team. And that will absolutely be the case. So basically, when a culture is created, everybody's treated equally. What I found is like when you talk to people with respect and listen to them, they answer back to you with respect. So and it's just a good sort of good cycle, positive cycle that you just carry on with it, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Love that. Yeah. Do you, this is a question from me, but as a smaller business, do you think it's important that to make sure that everyone is contributing to diversity inclusion? And because maybe it might be a bit harder to have, you talked about having a dedicated HR resource and things like that. And sometimes that's harder for smaller businesses. And I guess it could be even harder to have a dedicated ED&I person.
You know what? We don't really have it. We don't have a dedicated person who does that. It is um, more of a culture thing that we've embedded. How do we log this information? Obviously, we have people that help us to log it, but not to actually somebody dedicated just to do it. And what we found, actually, this is something that I can share with you, and I would really love to share this story with you about EDI. So with National Highways Project, we have to submit our EDI submissions every 6 months. So basically, initially, right at the beginning, Lisa and myself was scratching our head on what exactly is EDI? How do we do it? So when we look through, we look more in more detail, and what we realize is basically EDI is not something that we haven't already done. Like I mentioned in the questions earlier, in the answers of the questions earlier, is something that we already done. So we just need to make it into a more sort of more like basically using the language and being using the sort of framework and structure for it. So what we've done is what I demonstrated is basically with this one of the submission last time is exactly what we've done, rather than like something that's oh because everybody else is doing this at EDI, so I will do it as well. Is what DDC actually do. Like we talk about flexible working, treating everybody equally, include everybody regardless their role, and so on and so forth. So what it did is after that, I had a conversation with Belinda and National Highways and say, right, what do you think of that? And the feedback was brilliant. And what she actually said to us was, you know much better, you know your business better than anyone else. So if you get someone to do it, they don't know your business as much as you. So what they will set up for you is probably will be more rigid than what you actually do yourself. So we done is brilliant, basically. So that's what we've been carrying on, like when it's something that needs written, um, basically like bullet point of this is what we done with code with the help from like your program, FIR and supply scope, give us a framework. We put that into more structure, and we don't find it very daunting anymore.
I love that. And I think that's such a great point to make, especially to a lot of other smaller businesses, is that I think a lot of the time we're always focusing on what's the next thing, how can we be more inclusive and how can we look forward? And I think that's super important. But also reflecting on what are you already doing that's already great in your business is so important too, because I think a lot of people maybe things that they don't think are like fairness, inclusion, and respect or ED&I, they're actually already doing. And that I think celebrating and thinking about what you've already done and what you're already doing great and how you can already be an example is super important. Yeah. And I think maybe one final question. So, I'm just going to take a look. So, I think this is an interesting one. So, what do you do when you come across a client who do not live those FIR ED&I values, or it's not at the top of their agenda, with this being reflected in their teams and culture? How would you maybe work with someone like that? Or would you work with someone like that to even start with?
Um, the answer is we work with everyone. When I say we work with everyone, is we generally work with everyone, and we want everyone to work with us. So again, that is, I believe most of the stuff is your approach to people. So some things like sometimes obviously from my journey being at DDC, I've been talking to different people. It doesn't really matter about clients, sometimes like contractors, sometimes it just, just people like having involvement in the project because of the frustration of the project being behind. They have probably have a, have a, sometimes it's even a bad day that they could bring out to work, and they could just take it out on people or bring it into work that's, bring say the whole morale down. So what we've done, personally, what I've done about that, keep a cool head. So obviously understand that like more than pressures, everybody has the pressure of it. What we hear is to do a job. So if people don't, basically EDI is not their agenda, we say EDI isn't, but at the same time, if you respect someone, they will respect back to you. So obviously if, if so what if people like talking to me in a very like aggressive manner and stuff like that, then be open about it then, but calm about it. I say like, is there anything that I can help you with? Or do you perhaps want to move this meeting to a different time that we can discuss about it? Or what exactly is the issue that you want to resolve? So to me, I would never take things personal. So it's their frustration, and I understand that because of from other aspect from it maybe. So yeah, I mean, I I do I do find it I do find it like after a few sessions with people, people's attitude change dramatically. So I maybe I'm just very, very lucky that I didn't really find someone like I just don't want to help, don't want to work, and I just have a really unreasonable demand. And obviously, when people have unreasonable demand, just be very honest with them and say, right, that is not achievable. However, we can help you with that. And normally you find people like, okay, I understand. Yes, let's do it. Always find a solution for them, but in a very calm and professional manner.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's great advice. So yeah, so I think I'm just gonna share my screen again, and I'm just gonna say, it was so lovely talking with you, Carol, and I think there's a lot to learn from you. But we're just gonna head into break now. It's gonna be 10 minutes, so it's 45 past, so we'll come back at 55 past, if that's okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, just coming back. I'm just going to give it a minute just to make sure that everyone is back. I think I'm already sharing my screen. Continue doing that. Okay. I'm going to hand over um to Serena Mitchell now. So she's a commercial and procurement strategy manager from Network Rail, and she's going to be talking to you about understanding the Procurement Act 2023 and FIR requirements. So I'm just going to hand over to you now, Serena. I'm just going to put myself on.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Syra. It's an absolute pleasure to be here to speak with everybody today and to support this event. Yes, as Syra said, I'm Serena Mitchell. I am a commercial and procurement strategy manager at Network Rail. I appreciate my title probably doesn't give much away or why I'm actually here speaking with you. But essentially, in my role, I wear two hats. One of them is actually relating very much to the people of Network Rail, so our commercial and procurement practitioner community. So a lot of the work I do in the space with them is very much aligned to FIR. So it's about that cultural piece. It's about that really supporting our workforce. I mean, people are our biggest asset. So we really need to look after them. And that's fundamentally what I'm trying to do with one of these hats. The other hat that I wear is to do specifically with SMEs, which is exactly why I'm here to speak with you all today. And my team actually drafted the CP7 SME strategy. So this is thinking about actually over the next 5 years, what do Network Rail want to achieve? What do we want to change in this space so that SMEs have perhaps an easier time and a better kind of working relationship, whether it's with us or whether it's with our kind of key contractors within our supply chain. So two kind of very separate areas, but it comes quite nicely together today. So in this session, I'm not looking to do a really detailed training on the Procurement Act. I don't think that's probably what anybody would want, but it's really to draw out what the Procurement Act is trying to achieve in the way of SMEs and the real positive benefits that have come out of that. And then to speak a little bit about those kind of those FIR requirements and that social value aspect. So when you are bidding for work or considering to bid for work with a public body, then you can really kind of showcase what your values are. So I know we've already had a few polls already. I am going to continue that trend because I'm really keen to understand who's on the call today. Again, it just helps me kind of share the information that I have to make sure it is relevant to everybody. So if you can move us on to the first poll, please. So I'm really curious to know, have you worked with a public sector buyer before? So if I could encourage everybody to answer, again, it would just give me an indication of actually what people's experiences are, whether you're coming at this completely from scratch, or actually you're a seasoned organisation. So I presume the numbers will come up on the screen. Correct me if I am wrong on that.
Should be able to see them now, Serena. Can you?
I can't actually. Yes, perfect. They've come up. Okay, so a reasonable split actually. So yeah, 66% have worked with the public sector buyer before and 34% haven't. So again, we're going to have a Q&A section at the end. So I would be keen to understand people's experiences, if anything that you'd like us to work on based on your experiences with working with public sector buyers before. And for those people that are completely new, again, really would appreciate your insights after this, as well as if I could just move you on to the next slide. I haven't gone text heavy at all with my slides because I often find it distracting. if there's loads of text and you're also trying to listen to someone speak. But as I mentioned, I wanted to touch on the Procurement Act. Again, not to give you really detailed training, but just to pull out some key things. So I hate to mention it because there are very mixed views about this, but Brexit did afford the UK with the opportunity to really overhaul public procurement regulations. And this is probably the biggest change that we've seen in a generation. I mean, we're probably not going to see something like this again. And this was predominantly driven by the perception that it is very difficult, very bureaucratic to work with public sector organisations. So that was kind of the premise behind this thing. Let's overhaul it. If we're starting from scratch, what would we want this to look like? How would we design the regulations to kind of ease some of those burdens and reduce some of the pain that's perhaps experienced? So, I mean, fundamentally, one of the key changes is they've taken 4 separate pieces of regulation and they've condensed it down into one. So that in itself is a huge step forward, especially if you were trying to work with Network Rail, where a utilities contract, you're perhaps working with local authority, they would have followed a slightly separate regulation and they would have had different kind of timescales, different requirements set on them. So it could be a bit of a minefield if you were trying to work with various organisations and you were trying to have to get to grips with multiple pieces of regulation. So the fact that it's all come into one, so regardless of what you're buying, whether you're kind of working with NHS, police, local councils, with ourselves, TfL, we're all going to be working towards the Procurement Act. So that is definitely a positive. And also this Act introduce some new procurement objectives, which we have to have regard to now. As a buying organisation, we have to have regard to these things. So as you'd expect, value for money is going to be on there. We're obviously spending public funds, so we need to make sure that we are delivering value for money. Maximising public benefit comes in there as well, and this is where SMEs can really shine, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And again, this is all around that social value piece, that sustainability piece, really, really critical. The other objectives were really around that transparency piece as well, and that sharing of information. Again, it's trying to make it feel more accessible, what it is, like the regulations that we're guided by. So making it easier to understand, making it clearer why decisions are being made. And then obviously integrity is fundamental to all of that. If I could get you to move on to the next slide, this gives a bit of a better idea of some of those specific things that I was talking about as to what is benefiting SMEs. So the top one, the probably most important change that this Act has made is there is now an explicit duty to consider SMEs and VCSEs, so your voluntary community social enterprises, participation within our procurements. So we have to do that. It's not optional. It's something that we have to think about. The old rules didn't have this. It was very much a business decision, perhaps, as to how organisations approach this. But this is now in the Act. And this is all with the intention of actually thinking about, right, if we want to encourage perhaps SMEs to participate in a tender, what have we got in kind of our question set or in our process that perhaps is going to put a barrier there for an SME? So it's really trying to consider, right, what we're asking for, is it proportionate? So again, one of the main things that we've changed actually is around audited accounts. So we always previously had questions around audited accounts. We wanted to see them. There's obviously not a requirement for SMEs, certain SMEs, to have their accounts audited. So of course, having that requirement in there is automatically putting a barrier kind of right at the beginning. So that's just a very simple example. I guess another one would be around insurances. So often when you're going through a procurement process, you might have a question around, do you have a type of insurance, which actually you might not need if you don't win that contract. But if you were to get it right at the start without that guarantee of work, you could be shelling out hundreds, thousands of pounds. So actually it's then thinking about, well, why could the question not be, if you win the contract, can you get the relevant insurance, whatever it is that you might be looking at? So again, it's trying to reduce that burden up front in case there's kind of any monetary outlay required. So really, really fundamental key change in this legislation. Social value, so maximising public benefit. Mentioned that this was one of the core objectives. This is where we need to be considering how can what we're buying and the people that are going to be helping us to deliver that, how can we maximise the public benefit? So how can we support our local communities? How are we supporting our workforce? What is it that we're doing in this space? And for the procurements that are over the threshold, so there are certain thresholds in which the regulations come into play. Above those, there is always going to be 10% of the procurement weighting for social value. So if you are really clear as an organisation on what you can offer, what you're doing in this space, what value you bring, and generally it's easy, I say it's easier for SMEs, but you're generally working within the communities that you serve. So you'll be having local workforce. You've perhaps got good relationships with other local businesses. This is all social value in play. And often large organisations, they need these big teams because they find it so much more difficult because they're so far removed. So it's really looking at yourselves as an organisation and thinking, right, this is where we add value. This is what we can really offer for that question. And that could be the difference between kind of winning or not winning a bid as well. And previously this wasn't always consistent. Again, different public bodies, again, business decisions as to the weighting that they allocated to that as well as. So yeah, really, really cool change. In terms of transparency, as I mentioned, the idea was that we wanted to make it more accessible, so make it less scary, make it so it doesn't feel like anything's been hidden. I think that's the ultimate I suppose thought behind this. So some of the things that are now required of contracting organisations. So there are so many notices that have to get published throughout a procurement life cycle now. So when you're thinking about going out to the market, there'll be notices that come out during the procurement as well. Notices will be coming out. So again, it's to give that clarity as to what's going on as you're moving through that process. Publish contracts. So this is something that's new. So we now have to publish redacted versions of our contracts, obviously taking out any kind of commercial sensitive information. But that's not something that we had to do before. So there's a huge shift and change for organisations such as Network Rail and kind of the other bodies as well. But a real positive step to show that actually we're not trying to hide things away. We do want to make things as accessible as possible. And then feedback for me is the critical one. So just in terms of the feedback that you will get after undertaking a tender process as well, the requirements are that it's much more comprehensive than previous. A few other things again to pull out in terms of that process, and to be quite honest, it feeds quite nicely on from the transparency space, is this digital central platform that's been created. So again, this is really kind of with SMEs in mind, and in terms of wanting to save time and effort specifically for SMEs, because there is an appreciation. You probably haven't got bid teams sat there. You might not even have a dedicated procurement team. You might be sitting at home of an evening trying to work your way through the documentation, trying to respond to the tenders, or at weekends as well. So really the idea with this digital central platform is actually there'll be some key organisational information that whether you're working for us, whether you're working for DFT, whether you're working for highways, we'll all be wanting that same information. So the idea is this platform will store all of that on there, so you're not having to complete it time and time again, which does it takes effort and it takes time. So again, huge win on that one. And then in terms of the actual routes to market, again, not going to go massively into the details, but some of the things I really like about these routes to market now, especially for Network Rail. So we're a big fan of a framework contract, just in terms of you can put your framework contract, you can do your big tender exercises. Like we have some really big pieces of work going on. So we could do our big exercises, tender exercises, and then we know those suppliers that are on that framework, we can go to much easily much more easily and much more quickly. However, because we were under the utilities contract regulations, we could actually put these in place even prior to the Act for 8 years. But a lot can change in 8 years. Like the pace that the world is moving at and technology and all sorts of things, 8 years is a long time not to be able to kind of reopen that particular requirement to the market. So they've introduced something called open frameworks now. So there will be set points in frameworks that contracting organisations, public bodies, they can choose to reopen them and introduce kind of more suppliers onto that framework. So again, really, really positive steps. The government really tried to think through this, to think, right, what's actually going to make a difference, and what's really going to kind of support our supply chains and the people that want to work with us. So if I can move us on, I think this is going to take us now to the next poll, the next question. So I appreciate we've got a split on here. So we have some people that have already worked with public bodies, people that are perhaps new to it, and you've only heard perhaps what I've said today. But if you are able to answer this question, do you feel that public procurement is becoming more SME friendly? It's just a quick yes or no. So again, it would be great to get people's views, and I think this is one of the critical things for us, is we need to understand how things are landing with our supply chain, with SMEs, because if these things aren't making a difference and we need to look to do something else, then we need to know about that, and the only way we'll do that is through asking. So hopefully the stats will come up shortly. Perfect, brilliant. Okay, and a reasonable split again. So over half saying yes, and then 39 saying no as well. So again, if you are kind of more in that no side, I'm really keen to hear what would make a difference, what would make public procurement more SME friendly. Don't have to necessarily drop it in the chat today. I'm sure my details will be circulated after this, so please do reach out to me, because I'm really, really keen to know, because that's going to inform what we do as a business. Right, if we can move on to the next slide, please. Brilliant. So already heard quite a bit from our great speakers about fairness, inclusion, respect, and why it matters so much. And there were so many things that Carol mentioned that I thought that is completely spot on. And it is about understanding kind of yourselves as a business. I mean, for me specifically, like FIR is incredibly important. As I say, it's my other hat that I wear is exactly this. It's making people feel supported and safe at work. Safety is a huge thing for us. It's making sure that we're inclusive in everything that we're doing as well. It's making sure that we have that respect. And it's not just respect for one another internal to Network Rail, but it's actually respecting our customers, respecting the communities that we're working with. And I think what's really key here is public buyers. We want to work with businesses that are living these values, and that this is going to deliver broader benefits to society. The more people that can act in this way and that live by these values, the greater change that we can make. So it is really, really key. And as I mentioned, this is where that maximising public benefit objective is really coming into play. And this is really how you can showcase your value and what you're doing. And within that, we've got social value. So that could be kind of community well-being. It could be supporting your workforce in development. It could be promoting equality. But then we can also look at it from that sustainability perspective as well. So are you doing something in terms of kind of environmentally friendly products or carbon footprints, things like that? Or actually, are you working with other SMEs? Are you working with VCSEs? That's that economic growth bit. That's supporting those local businesses. I mean, something that's worth pointing out, and I'm sure it'll be the same for the other organisations, but Network Rail specifically, we are going to be launching our sustainability strategy in the next month or so. And within that, we're going to have some really clear goals as to what we as Network Rail want to drive forward in terms of those kind of commitments that we want to make. So that is a a really useful document. If you're looking to bid for work with Network Rail, you can go and see, actually, right, what do we do that aligns to those goals? How can we really support and move their kind of commitments along? And this is what we're trying to kind of get across, is this is so critical. And as I mentioned, it is part of those procurements, of those above threshold procurements. There will be 10% weighting allocated to that. The questions will look different because it will be very much tailored to that specific procurement. But if you understand as a business what difference you can make and how you can benefit society, absolutely huge, absolutely huge. And that's the thing, I think often if you're kind of just embarking on this journey, you can think, I'm not too sure where to start. Like, this feels quite overwhelming. But you might be surprised actually what you're doing that falls into this space. So, I mean, for an example, if we're looking at a really micro organisation, if you've got 10 employees, but everyone's got equal opportunities, you've got that wellbeing support there for them, that is FIR in action. Or you've got an apprentice, or you've perhaps flexed working hours because somebody's come back from parental leave. Like, these things really, really matter. So don't undervalue those types of activities that you're doing, because that is, as I said, this FIR in action. And I suppose the other thing that I really wanted to draw out as well is, as I mentioned, I do think SMEs that embrace that social value are in a really strong position. But even if you're not bidding for contracts with kind of the likes of Network Rail or highways or whoever it might be, and you're looking to go through those kind of larger suppliers, they will have social value obligations as well. So if you can showcase to them how you will support in meeting those social value obligations, it's only going to be a good thing. So I'm going to take us on to now some support that is available. And I mean, I'm always shocked to hear, I know the stats, but I'm always shocked when you do hear it, of how many SMEs make up kind of the workforce in terms of construction. So we've got 85%, Dana said, in terms, and that was the more conservative percentage. And why I'm bringing that up again is, us as kind of buying organisations, as public sector bodies, we really do understand how important it is to support SMEs, how important it is for us to have a healthy supply chain. Even the large organisations that we're working with, they won't be delivering our contracts solely on their own. They need that supply chain. They need you to be able to deliver on that. So I've popped on the slide, hopefully some links will come out after this session as well, but there is a wealth of information that has been created by ourselves and by the other organisations to really support SMEs. And again, all free of charge. There's no catch here at all. We understand that public procurement can often feel a bit overwhelming, even prior to the changes to the Act. And we want to be able to support, we want to break it down. So actually, people that haven't thought about working with public sector bodies go, that's actually doable. Yeah, I feel comfortable now in bidding for work because I understand it a bit more, as well as perhaps for the more seasoned people, actually providing those kind of bits of information that maybe will enhance their bids going forward. So again, my team were responsible for pulling together this SME supplier guide. And really this was to do exactly that, to break down our procurement processes. So we go into the detail around kind of what we ask at what stages. Again, not the specific details for every single procurement, but those overarching themes, the types of things that we're looking for and why we're asking for them as well. We've got some like tips in there in terms of actually, if you're always having to provide certain information, have yourself like a document repository. Make sure you've always got those up-to-date documents ready. So when a tender does go live, you're kind of half the way there, you're prepared. As I mentioned, Network Rail, we do have a lot of frameworks in place. So we do work and deliver a lot of work through those close relationships with a few suppliers. So what we've done in this guide is actually we have a map showing who all of those key framework contractors are. So again, if you're looking to support and work in the supply chain, you've got the organisations that we're working with that have won those bits of work. and specifically kind of the areas that they've run their work in. So again, you can reach out to them if that's something that you're interested in. So again, really useful. We also have names and contacts in there, so you actually have a person to go to speak to. Again, the way Network Rail is set up, we have in all of our various regions, we have a dedicated SME champion, and they are there to support you, to answer any questions. So all of that information is available. HS2 again have something very similar. They have an SME portal. They have lots of events. They do case studies on success. Again, critical. We appreciate you are critical to our supply chains, and that's why we've all been developing various kind of iterations of SME guidance and supplier guides and portals, because we want to support you. We want you to be bid ready. We want you to be successful when you are bidding for work with us. National Highways, they have an SME hub as well. They do webinars on becoming bid ready, and they've also got this net zero playbook. So again, it's helpful if you're looking to talk about sustainability in your bids and the scoring around that. Again, it gives you some really insightful tips on that. TfL have some SME tools as well. They've got links to Compete for, so that's a platform for accessing London-based infrastructure tenders. So again, really, really useful tool. It's actually something that I know HS2 use as well. So it's really useful, I suppose, to familiarise yourself with that if you're looking to work with those organisations. I mentioned that this wasn't meant to be specific training on the Act, because there is already some great training out there. The DfT have done a whole host actually of different videos, of different documents to really help organisations understand the impact of the Procurement Act and what's changing. And they've done SME focused ones as well. So I do urge you to have a look, especially if you're thinking about working with a public sector organisation. I do also want to highlight that we work quite closely with the DfT, as I know some of the other organisations do, and they hold free, again, SME events as well. They tend to be around 4 to 6 weeks. And they move around the country. There is actually one in Brighton next week. We were in Ireland last month, so they do get around a bit. But again, those of you to come along, you can get some real good insights into working with public sector organisations, but there's also a really good opportunity for networking, and we often hear that that's the most valuable part of the day. So my team always go. We usually have representatives from our regional teams as well, and I know some of like the big contractors are there as well. And I've been to so many of these now, but there's been some great success stories where people have met at these events and then they've gone on to secure work within the supply chain as well as. So really, really positive. And then how could I not end on all of the amazing content? What was it? 550 resources purely for the FIR program on the Supply Chain School of Sustainability. That is just incredible. If you have not been on there, you need to find a bit of time, grab yourself a coffee and actually go and have a look, because there is so much information, valuable information on there that I would highly recommend. I use it in terms of training in our own teams. I do promote it quite a bit. So again, it's really useful as a tool. So I think this is now going to take us on to our last poll, actually. So I'm curious to know, which of these resources have you used before? Appreciate it's only single choice, but if you have accessed more than one, just maybe pick the one that you've used the most. Again, if the answer is actually none of them, we probably should have had a none choice. But if their answer is none of them, that's an action that I will take away from Network Rail and I will pass on to kind of my colleagues in the respective organisation. We need to do more then as organisations if you haven't seen these tools, because we've created them for a reason. We don't want them to sit there untouched. So we might need to do a better job ourselves at promoting what's out there. So yeah, really keen to understand if anybody has used any of these materials before. And as I mentioned, well, we're just waiting for the numbers to come up. If there's anything, if you have used these resources and you think they don't quite hit the mark, then please do let us know and we can do something else. Okay. I would say I'm shocked, but I'm probably not. I'm probably not. I think that's really powerful, though, that we need to do something more as buying organisations to really showcase this. So I will absolutely take that as an action, and again work with the other organisations as well to make sure that we're promoting all of these good resources as much as possible. So moving on to my final slide, I believe so. So here, I wanted to leave you with some actual steps that you could take. I wanted it to be a really useful session. So if there's only one thing that you do after this is to register on the central digital platform. That is going to be key if you're wanting to work with public sector organisations. So you can get that set up ahead of time and then that's ready to go. I put on there draft a short equality and diversity policy. I think I should have made this slightly broader actually. And the reason I put this in there was slightly off on a tangent, but Supply Chain School, they do a diversity survey every year, which kind of we work alongside them with. And it was really surprising in the last set of results that a lot of policies, so I'm talking about like reasonable adjustment policies or equality policies, not all organisations have those in place. So again, if there's anything else that I can kind of encourage everybody to do is actually have a look at what you do have a look at perhaps what's missing. They don't need to be really long, but again, it sets a tone for your organisation. It sets out your values in stone in terms of what you stand for and what you're going to support your people with. So absolutely have a look at those types of things. And I believe, I'm sure Dana or Syra will correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe there are some tools on the Supply Chain School as well to help you with drafting various policies as well. So if you are starting from scratch, again, there's resources there to help you. Can't not include the FIR training. So important. Even I think 30 minutes is going to send you on that journey. Obviously, the more time or the more people in your organisations that can do things like the FIR training, the better your results are going to be. You're going to start shaping that culture. You're going to be changing kind of what it is that you stand for, and then you'll be really able to showcase that throughout your procurements. I put on there download the Network Rails SME guide. I've got to put that on there because that's my team's. But there are so many resources on there. Not expecting you to go away and read them all, unless you are really struggling to get to sleep or something. But they are all there to be used. So if you're looking to work with any of those organisations, do go and read them or download them. Download the link so you've got them if you ever need to refer to them in the future. But they're really, really useful tools. And then finally, for the major buyers, so where there is an option to sign up for SME updates, I would highly recommend signing up for them because then you're going to get that content straight to your mailbox as well as. And obviously, the more information you have, the more you can be prepared for any procurement opportunities that come up in the future. So I think that's me, and I think we're off into Q&A now. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you found that useful, and yeah, happy to answer any questions that come in.
Perfect. So I'm just going to stop sharing the slide so we can see our faces more clearly, and I'm just going to bring up the Q&A. So that was great, Serena, and we have a lot of questions. And so the first one that I wanted to do is this one is about the session. So it says that there seems to be a lot of assuming that businesses are already doing FAIR in action, but they'd like to talk about what if you're at the very start of your journey. So what sort of things can you say, or is it yeah, I think it's talking about that beginning journey. Like if you're just at the start of the FAIR journey, what would you recommend that people do?
I think this would probably come back to setting that kind of what your company stands for, what it is that you want to achieve. Because there's so many different avenues I think you can go down with this. But I think if you, from that top level, if you can have that, right, this is what we want to be known for, this is where we want to go, that's the most critical thing, because then you can start building around that. You can, and the thing is, and I think this is something Carol picked up, FIR isn't just a group of people doing something. It is a cultural piece, and cultural change is hard. Trying to do anything where you're trying to impact people's behaviours is difficult. And I think that's why it's so clear to have that vision that you can keep going back to say, no, this is what we want to stand for. So you can start driving those behaviour changes. And things like having right policies in place, that's just kind of a start. That's setting kind of your intentions in stone, as it were, and then you can start building around that. But I think that's where the FIR programme obviously really comes into play, by actually having a look at the resources and thinking, right, what speaks to me now, and let's start that journey.
Yeah, exactly. And then also people are asking about examples of the kind of things that smaller businesses can write in their tenders that make them stand out. Do you have any examples of what you've seen maybe put into tenders that have maybe worked at Network Rail?
It's difficult to give an example because every tender will look different. So depending on what it is that we're buying, the specific questions that are asked will be very much tailored towards that. So obviously, if it's something, I don't know, perhaps workspace in a certain, I don't know, location, there might be questions around that local community or locally sourced materials or something very specific. So it'd be hard to give an example, but I think what is really key to take away, and I know, and I've heard it often before from SMEs, of how can I possibly compete with those big organisations? I'm a team of 20. I take on one apprentice. They're taking on 50 apprentices. Like, how can I compete? So in the tender process, we won't ever look and go, well, they've only got one and they've got 100. We've got to go with the 100. We look at it relative to a business. We look at actually all of the other things that you're trying to do. If you're doing community outreach programs with schools, that's huge. These things are really important. So it's kind of, don't undersell what you're doing, and don't think, oh, because there's a bigger organisation that's throwing millions of pounds at this, they're going to beat me, because it's not the case at all. So it's really understanding. What I would say is, if when you are bidding, really understand what it is that we're trying to achieve through that procurement. As I mentioned, look at the sustainability strategy when it's launched, as to see what those commitments are, and really tailor what you're doing to that. I think that's probably the best advice I can give.
Amazing, yeah. And then we also have a question about so someone said, I believe the public buyers need to recognise the restricted resources for smaller businesses has when it comes to completions of tenders. And they said, in my case, I complete the tenders myself while fulfilling all my other responsibilities as a small business owner, and I find myself up against much larger organisations, some with bid teams and the financial resources to outsource some of all the elements of the tender process. They say that they do believe the Procurement Act will be a step in the right direction, but however, how can we ensure that that small businesses are be given a fair chance?
That's a big question, isn't it? And we 100% recognise that issue, that it, just by its nature, it's not a level playing field if people have bid teams and they can outsource it. The thing is, though, what you often find is they will lack that passion, because you are living and breathing your business and what it is that you're doing and what you stand for. You can often see that in the writing. It will come across. So regardless of whether you have a bid team or not, there will always be indicators when somebody really believes in something and they are really passionate about what they're doing. So that's kind of one thing I would say. I mean, hopefully the changes in terms of the notices and the requirements for us to publish pipelines will help a little bit, just in the fact that if you are able to prepare because you know a tender's going to land, it might ease the burden, because you can perhaps not flex your schedule, but you can factor it in. I know often I hear from SMEs that actually they don't know it's going to land, and then they get into work on that Monday and everything has to change because a tender's gone live. So it's like having those early warnings and having a bit more information up front will hopefully help with that. But it's absolutely something that we're looking at. And again, relating to that question, I'm always conscious we talk about SMEs as if they're all the same. And we go all the way from those micro organisations, the 1-2 man person band all the way up to kind of the larger organizations. So what we're trying to do now with our SME strategy is think, right, what else can we do specifically for those micro organizations to better support? So we are looking to do more in this space, and we do recognize that we need to separate SMEs out because we're doing a bit of an injustice, I think, by grouping everyone together.
And then you did touch a bit about the diversity survey that we do run and about data collection. I'd really, could you just dig into a bit more detail about like why that's so important for smaller businesses? Because I think we do have a lot of smaller businesses feeding into the survey, but like you said, what the survey shows is maybe they're missing a lot of things and they're maybe not submitting the most rich data sometimes, and that's really important for these sort of things.
Yeah. So looking at it kind of as a whole, the diversity survey is so important to us as an industry because it actually allows us to try and understand, right, where as a collective are we perhaps not making as much progress and where have our initiatives landed. So from that perspective, it's really, really powerful when we're kind of sitting back as kind of client organizations, as Network Rail, as highways, to actually look at the whole sector and really get a picture. I think from people and the organisations that are completing the survey, I think exactly what you just said is often you might not realise you're missing a trick or there are steps that you can take in certain areas. But I think by completing that survey, you get that kind of report back. So it will then have those like tips and tricks of actually, you haven't got the relevant policies in place, or actually have you thought about doing this because it could drive this type of behaviour or whatever it is that we're looking at. But yeah, it's really, really powerful. And again, not to go into the survey stats in too much detail, but one of the surprising things was not only the policies, that not everybody kind of, all organisations have those policies, but actually we're collecting the makeup of board data for the first time this year as well. And that was incredibly powerful because, again, it actually shows people getting to certain levels in business and actually where's those drop off, which kind of groups of people are dropping off. So then we can start doing some targeted intervention. So really, really powerful data. So yeah, if people don't know about it, do obviously reach out to the FIR program leads and they'll be able to give you more information on that.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit more because it's launching soon. So Dana's going to go into that. So we will definitely cover it. But yeah, I think we can wrap it up there. That was so great, Serena. Thank you so much for speaking on this. And we will share your details with everyone after this. So if you have any more questions, and also there are a few more questions that have gone into the chat, I'll send those all over to Serena so she can look at them. And if you've put your name, then we can find your email and she can reach out to you for that. Or we can maybe set up something that's a bit more general because we do have quite a few. That was great. And I'm going to pass back over to Dana. Thank you so much, Serena.
Hello again, everyone. It's me. I'm back. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I want to thank Carol so much, and I want to thank Serena as well. It was really useful. It made me feel like wanting to go and submit a tender. No, I don't want to submit a tender. Well, I probably don't because I saw that comment in the chat about working hard to submit those tenders in free time. So I absolutely and totally get that. But great information that was shared. And so many questions, and I don't want people to feel like the questions that were left in the chat will not be addressed. We're going to work with Serena to get answers to those that we can share, because I always feel it's frustrating when you go to a conference like this one and you have all of these burning questions, but then we run out of time in the agenda to be able to address them. So don't worry, we have got you. If you didn't get your question answered live in the session, we will work together with our amazing panelists today to help you get those missing answers so that you're not left without them, which is really important. So there are a few things that I get to tell you about now, including the diversity data benchmarking survey and reports that has already come up in the chat. I'm excited to do that. But firstly, a question. We haven't had a poll for a little bit. You've been asking your questions. Now it's back. This is a quick yes or no. Did you know that the FIR program has a hub specifically for SMEs? The options are yes, and you can tell I wrote this question because the second one is hub. What's hub? That sounds just like me, and that's because I wrote this one. Oh, I can see it up on my screen. Hub, what hub? Oh, should I do a spoiler? I'll let a few more answers come in. There we go. We had 76% saying hub, what hub? And I guess that's why it's important to be able to chat about this today. Now, I could have put the hub up on screen and taken you through it in slides, but I decided not to do that and instead to try and show it to you live. And in honor of this moment, you will all be pleased to know that I closed down the tabs that I normally have open on my screen. So I am notorious as one of those people who has 100 tabs open at the same time. Today, just for you, I closed my tabs down so that I would be able to show you the SME Community Hub. So the Community Hub launched last year, and clearly we need to do even more in this space to get the word out. And we will start by sharing a link to the hub when we put our resources in after the chat. The SME Community Hub was funded by our partners at CITB. Hi, Ben. Fellow 100 Tabber, we can start a support group for each other. And the aim of it was to create a space and some resources available just for smaller businesses. So what does it look like? Intro at the top, but then the very first thing that we have here at the beginning features our inclusive recruitment for SMEs. So again, we made this in collaboration with the CITB, and the whole aim of it is to help smaller businesses create fair, inclusive recruitment processes. There is even a checklist at the end of this thing to make it really easy. And I think my favorite thing about it, and I am allowed to say this because I am unbiased, it was created before I joined the FIR team, so I'm allowed. My favorite thing about it is that it is really practical and hands-on. And I think sometimes when we build learning, it can be quite theoretical, but this is a really practical and hands-on one. And from just sitting here and soaking up today's webinar, I understand that that is something that we need a bit more of. So I would encourage you to check that out. Next, there is an advertisement about a case study opportunity. But you know what? I'm going to scroll past it because I want to tell you about it myself a little bit later. There is stuff about our free workshops, conferences, and webinars. Guess what? You're in this one. You're here. This is where we are today. But also, for those of you asking questions about diversity data and diversity data benchmarking, you should know that we have a webinar coming up really soon, next week, the 15th of May, from 12 to 1, where we show you our insights from this session. We share them with you. I think the 15th is a Thursday. It should be Thursday, the 15th of May. So it's next week, Thursday, the 15th. We will show you the report. And Syra and I, you've met Syra earlier. She's the one who was asking all of the questions. We're going to tell you what our top 10 insights on that report were. Please sign up and join us. Otherwise, there'll be a recording. Don't worry. FIR ambassadors are people who are champions of FIR in their organizations. If you don't have a FIR ambassador, you might want to nominate someone to become one. I understand from my secret sources that that might be another tool in your arsenal to be able to support your commitments to FIR and social value by showing that you have a FIR ambassador available. Some information about the community hub, what it is and how to use it, always useful. But I want to mention these information sheets to the end. So they are short, they are snappy and to the point. We've got several of them up now, a general one about fairness, inclusion, and respect as a whole. But then we have broken down topics like neurodiversity, gender identity, ethnicity, and disability. If you wanted just a small snapshot of something, I would recommend these. They are really easy reads. You can download them. They don't take a lot of time. You can adapt them for your internal use. Very short and snappy. We're not asking you to read 20 pages. It's like 2-3 pages. And I think you might find these very useful. There were brilliant questions about what should I do if I'm at the start of my journey, at the very start? Well, these might be some things. You might want to have a FIR ambassador internally, and you might want to start looking at some of the resources and info sheets that we have available just for you. There are learning pathways as well, but then we also signpost resources specifically for SMEs. So all of these are SME targeted. There's a case study about implementing a menopause policy in a smaller business. There is a business case for FIR. So what about if you have a leadership team who are new to this? How can you make the business case that it's really important? I think you might find that useful. Challenges and obstacles being addressed in a webinar, and also some tools and strategies. But I think why we've spotlighted these 4 resources is because they actually were specifically geared to what the SME community. So if you were thinking, what can I do now? What can I do next? This would be a great place to start. If you're a little bit further along in your journey, you might want to check out this thing here, which is the FIR Growth Assessment. What's a FIR Growth Assessment? Well, it assesses where your organization is across 5 key areas, scores you, but then that's not it, because a score is sort of useless on its own. It tells you to improve in this category, here are some things we recommend you could do next. To improve in this category, here are some things that we recommend you do next. And I think that's really important, because for some people, they hear 550 resources and they go, yay! And then there are some people who hear 550 resources and they go, oh my goodness, 550 resources. Where can I possibly begin with this? If you might be in that space, I think this is a little more targeted and focused. It's an easier way to get started on your journey of building FIR in your organizations. So when you get the post email out after this event, look for the link to the SME Community Hub. Look for this link. I think it would be a really great place for you to get started. And I bet you thought that was the only thing that I was going to tell you today, but there is a little bit more. Can I get the slides back up, please? I'm seeing slides and notes, not the full slide screen. While we're doing that, I just want to make a special note to Chris. Chris has been doing some challenging on ageism in the industry across today's webinar, pointing out how serious it is and how it undermines the mentoring of younger people. I just want to flag that as a really great point. That it is something that we should be paying particular attention to. Now, we do have some resources around ageism in FIR, but maybe we need to make it a bit more of a spotlight. So I want to thank Chris for putting that on our agenda. And as a team, we can go away and think about, well, how might we share a profile on this next? Chris, I want you to know that I'm always listening as are the rest of the FIR team. And with your permission, after this, I'd love to put some more time in to chat about it and to think about what we can do to address. Now, next slide. Okay, I did skim over the bit about case studies because I wanted to make a personal appeal myself on these. So we have been asked by the CITB to create a profile of case studies, so a bank of case studies that center only on SMEs. So they looked at our case studies and they thought, you know what, it's great coverage of larger organizations. We need more focus on SMEs. And we've been working on that. We've been asked to build 18 case studies for SMEs. 5 of them minimum video-based, and then the rest of them can be written. We've done our first one. It's centered on Kava Securities, who I can see is on the webinar today. Hi, Kava. Their compliance director, Mal, spoke to us. They are a security services firm based in Redditch with around 50 employees. And they talked to us about inclusive recruitment, changes that they've made in their organization, and the value that they've seen from it. We would love to be able to put loads of you who are on today's webinars in a case study. Tell us cool things that are happening in your organization. Let's make links to inclusive recruitment, and we can build a case study around you. If this is something that you're interested in, we will have an email address flashed up at the end and also in the notes. Write to us and let us know. We want to talk to you. But one quick caveat, if you choose a video case study instead of a written case study, we do not have budget for hair and makeup. So you are going to get a beautifully branded video that you can post on all of your socials and all of your websites. But unfortunately, we don't have hair and makeup budget for the case studies. Just putting that out there, but we would still love to feature you if you were interested. Next. I also want to talk to you about the Inspiring Change Awards. So every year we have an award ceremony and conference. So it's not just awards, there's a conference as well. And we recognize the FIR Ambassador of the Year. FIR ambassadors are those champions of FIR that I spoke about. We have a category called FIR Inspiration of the Year. So to be a FIR inspiration, you don't need to be a FIR ambassador, just someone who is visible, someone who's inspired others, someone who's led the charge for inclusion in their organization or community, someone who's made a difference. We also have FIR Innovator Award. So if you are doing cool things in your organization, let us know about it. You could win an award. And all of these things help tell the story of your organization when it comes to inclusion. But also, this year we have SME of the Year, SME of the Year Award. It's going to recognize an SME that has made really great strides in embedding FIR in their organization. So we are not asking you to compete with the larger organizations. This one is just for you. So any initiatives you've implemented that are great and have led to measurable improvements, tell us about them. Nominations are open. I would love it if someone on this webinar won this award. It would excite me. We also have other awards based on performance in FIR, like we have FIR Learner of the Year award. Something tells me an SME might win this because I know that Mal from Kava Securities is on FIR Learning all the time. Might be him, but might be you. There's still time to go. And we also have a Diversity Data Award for SMEs this year. And at this point, you'd probably be like, what's a Diversity Data Award? And let me tell you a little bit more about that. So you would win a Diversity Data Award if you made strides when you were submitting your diversity data. Submitting your diversity data, what are we talking about? So this is the diversity data benchmarking report. The supply chain school releases one every year. It is the largest benchmarking and diversity data exercise that takes place across the construction and built environment industry. Last year, we had 589 organizations give their data, which means that over 450,000 people's data was represented in the survey. Really interestingly, 448 of the organizations who participated out of 589 were SMEs. And that increased greatly from the previous year, where it was 338. Every single year, we see more and more SMEs providing their data to give us a better lens and better insights into the shape of the industry. Now, submissions for this are now open, and you might be thinking about, well, how do I submit my data? And don't worry, I can help with that too. There are a series of sessions that will tell you what's involved and when they're coming. I'll flash them up on the slide really, really quickly. You'll see some dates in there. Don't worry about writing these down and trying to register. We'll send these out for you. There are 3 sessions where we talk you through how to submit your data in a really easy set of steps. It is really easy, and give you some advice and guidance on how to do it from the people who run this tool that give us the data. We would love it if people would sign up for this and provide their data to us. Next. I just want to tell you very quickly about some upcoming FIR events. Again, we'll link to these. I mentioned our top 10 insights. It will tell you what is critical from last year's report, which is now published. We have a Trust Matters virtual conference, very similar to this one. You heard about inspiring change, but also we have a really cool AI session about AI and inclusion, promise or problem, that's coming up later on in the year. So look out for that. We'll send you those links. Thank you very much. And now it's the last question, the very last one. I told you this was coming. We're going to try and do this really quickly so that we end on time for the 2 minutes of silence that is happening at 12 noon. Could you please let us know as an SME what you would like to see next from the FIR team? The Menti is up on screen. Type it up. And while you're typing, I'm going to say to you, thank you so much for your attention and for your insights today. We rely on you to help shape our program and our culture in FIR, and to help us be better as an organization and to build tools that are really useful and helpful. And I think today was the start of something really incredible, a really good conversation. Tell us what you'd like more from us, because we are here to serve and we really do listen. So let's please just take a few minutes and give us some ideas on what you'd like to see from us next. This is great. Tangible case studies, roundtable discussions, innovation ideas. Oh, printable toolbox talks. That's a brilliant idea. More certificates and accreditation, more on ageism. Oh, help for micro companies. Okay, I hear that. Oh, in-person events and networking. All right, I love that. Recognition, okay. All right. Oh, somebody said thanks because they're already getting what they need from us, which is brilliant. This is great. Please keep it coming. Please keep it coming. All of this goes into, encouragement. Yes, we can do the encouragement. I will be your #1 cheerleader in this space anytime, but I hear you. More content. More targeted content, absolutely. Sharing innovation ideas. Oh my gosh, somebody's written people like yours. Oh, I'm taking that one away. Thank you so much, everyone. Please keep it coming. I appreciate you, and I appreciate this so very much. What a brilliant Brilliant way to end. Now, just so you know, we'll be sending out a feedback form in addition to amazing links with the information shared from within this session. It was an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. Here is our email address. It's fir@supplychainschool.co.uk. Someone will put it into the chat, but I forgot I had a last poll. Put up my last poll. There's still 90 people on and I have 2 minutes. My last poll. My last poll is, did you find today's session useful? You will be able to tell us in the feedback form, but you can tell again that I wrote this one. Sorry, yes, yes, hell yes, absolutely yes. And let's do it all over again. Are the options very silly of me? I know. Thank you so much, everyone. We will be in touch to wrap up with resources, but it has been brilliant being with you today, and I appreciate your time and attention. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Thanks, everyone. I can see all the thanks coming into the chat. It's making me smile. Thank you and goodbye.